everyone, and welcome to episode 150 of A Stitch in Time. Today is Friday, August 7th, 2020. I'm Carol, also known as Knitsnpurls on Ravelry, and I'm coming to you from my home in the Fraser Valley of British Columbia, not too far east of Vancouver. If you are a first-time viewer, a very special hello and welcome to you. Thank you so much for checking out the podcast. I hope you like what you see and that you'll be back for more. And if you are a returning viewer, welcome back. Long time no see. As many of you know, I did not record an episode last week because I was away on holidays with my husband, Cameron. For a good part of that time, we did not have cell phone or internet access. And then even when we did, we spent very little time on our devices. And it was really nice to just sort of take a step away from what I call real life and the real world and just be able to chill for a while and not get caught up in the news of the day and all of that. Of course, you can't avoid it entirely. My husband had a couple of work things he had to attend to during our time away, but for the most part, we were able to just do some fun activities and get some relaxation in. And I kind of let holiday mode follow me into this week. My husband had to go back to work a few days ago. I've been here at home and haven't been too motivated to do very much other than some crafting. So I have lots to share with you today. I'm feeling rusty. I have recorded and re-recorded this segment numerous times, and I can't remember if I said thank you to everyone who reached out while we were away. I really do appreciate you taking the time to say hello. I have put some hearts on some comments on YouTube, and I have a few things I have to respond to. I'm hoping to do that by the time this goes live. Regular viewers of the podcast will notice the change in background. This is our downstairs spare bedroom that looks out onto our backyard. I've been doing some sewing and my craft room is a mess right now, and that's where I usually record. I have fabric laying around everywhere, so when I began this process, it was still morning, and this room gets better light than my craft room anyway. We've now ticked over into afternoon, but and the sun is kind of coming in and out of the clouds, so it'll be interesting to see how the lighting turns out. Hopefully it'll be okay. Anyway, I think it's going to be a long one, and it might be a little bit disjointed. Forgive me for that, but settle in, and I hope you enjoy what I have to share with you today. The first thing I'm going to show you is a new cup that I just received last night. My daughter dropped it off on her way home from doing some shopping after work, and if you can't read it, it says, "Grandma is my name, spoiling is my game." And I'm drinking some really delicious jasmine tea out of it. I always forget that I have this tea, and it's so, I don't know why, but it's just, I don't know why I forget I have it, but I do. I think it's because it's not stored in one of the cans that I have most of my loose tea in. It's in an envelope, and it gets kind of tucked away. Anyway, it is delicious. I'm going to take a sip, and then I will get on with my projects. So good. So I have two finished projects to share with you this week. Both of them are the result of mystery knit-alongs, and so in the interest, I know both the final clues have been released for, I think, over a week now. So I don't really need to give you a spoiler alert, but I will just in case you're working on them and you don't want to look ahead. I'm going to be showing you the finished results of the Destination Unknown Very Busy Monkey Sock Knitters Anonymous Mystery Sock. and also Helen Stewart's Stillness Shawl. So fair warning, if you don't want to be spoiled, come back in probably 10 minutes, and the rest of them, check out the rest of my projects then. So as many of you know, I am a huge Agatha Christie fan, and so a little over a month ago, when I saw that there was a mystery sock cowl based on an Agatha, the name was inspired by an Agatha Christie novel, and it was a very busy monkey pattern. That was a winning combination in my mind, so I jumped right in. So it is based on this novel, Destination Unknown, and I thought it would be fun to see if I had a skein in my stash that sort of picked up some of the colors on the cover of the copy that I own. Actually matches what I'm wearing today. And I found a skein of Sweet Georgia yarns in Tough Love Sock in the Strawberry Tea colorway. And I think I did a pretty good job. So there they are, side by side. I think when this was in the skein, the orange was a little bit more obvious, but I still think it's a good compliment. So here is the sock. It was a top-down lace pattern. The lace, a traditional heel flap and gusset, and then the lace carried on onto the foot, but it took a little turn. So I'll turn this sideways so you can see that it ended with this point down the foot, down the instep. And so I knit these socks 2 at a time concurrently on separate needles. And so I kind of work back and forth, clue 1, clue 2, etc. And so I have a pair. I always like when I choose to knit my socks this way, it's always very satisfying to have a pair sort of finished at the same time. I have 3 pairs of socks sitting upstairs that are all finished for the first sock, and all I've done is the cuff for each of the second. So when I can do this and sort of have this turnaround in like about a month's time and have 2 socks to show for it, it's very, very rewarding. So yeah, very, very pleased with this finished project. I think what I'm going to do is, in a second, I'll turn the camera around so you can see my next one in a bigger shot because it's very large. So the Stillness Shawl by Helen Stewart. Sorry, I have a window in front of me and my eyes are attracted to things that are going on in my backyard. Right now there are some dragonflies flying around. Earlier, while I was recording, or attempting to record, I saw a hummingbird a couple of times and took some footage. So if the footage turns out, I will insert that here so you can enjoy what I got to enjoy. And if not, I'm sorry, I tried. But I did very much enjoy seeing the sight of a hummingbird going from flower to flower to flower in my hummingbird bee and butterfly garden that I set up just for that purpose. And since I've been home, I haven't seen the hummingbird around at all, so that was quite rewarding to see it among the flowers. Oh, away it goes. In any case, so the Stillness Shawl was, the theme for it was still life. And so I decided to base my yarn choices on this still life photo I have of these macarons in a Paris bakery. I went stash diving. I found I found 2 skeins of Sweet Georgia yarns. Once again, I found an orange colorway in Cash Luxe Fine, which is which is called Persimmon, and then I found a green skein in Tough Love Sock called Pistachio. And then I went on the Sweet Georgia Yarns website and I found a coordinating skein of Tough Love Sock in a colorway called Rainbow Sprinkles. And I feel like they worked together really well. So here's a look at the 3 colors together. The shawl is a half pie shawl, so a semicircular shawl. I did make a couple of changes. The most notable is that this section of striping, the green stripes are supposed to be stockinette, and I tried it and I just didn't care for it, and I ended up changing them to garter stitch. In the beginning, I also knit and reknit the colors in various orders till I found the order that I liked the best. And then I had used part of the orange skein for another project before, so when I reached the end of the shawl, I knew I didn't have enough to finish it. I had to leave off 1 row of the edging, and then instead of binding off with the suggested bind off, I did Jenny's surprisingly stretchy bind off, just because it's one that I really like. So other than that, I knit the shawl as written. And I'm going to just turn this camera a little bit and then show it to you here, just because it is so large. See? Look how big. So let's see. Let me bring this in and I'll show you the various clues. So clue 1 took us from here to here. Clue 2 was this lace section, followed by this striped section. Clue 3 was this textured stitch. Clue 4 was this eyelet striped section. And then clue 5 was this lace edging. So as I mentioned, it is a really large shawl. I love how it blocked out. Very happy with that. I will most likely wear it like this. I think I would find it personally too big to wear kind of this way. Whenever I have the big shawl like that, I just feel like the shawl is wearing me instead of the other way around, because I am not that tall. And while these colors, I think it's a very fun combination. I love the bright, cheerful colors. It's not a combination or a shawl style I'm likely to wear sort of out of the house, but I can definitely see myself wrapping up in this in the winter, fall, or spring, whenever it's cool, and enjoying the warmth of it and the bright colors in maybe a duller season. So yeah, one last look. Really, really, really happy with this, how it turned out. So I'll adjust the camera and show you what else I've been working on. So after finishing my sunny day socks a couple of weeks ago, I needed a new pair of stockinette socks to work on during our travels in the car. So I cast on a new pair using yarn by Fiber Nymph Dye Works in the Summer Fairy colorway. And this is on the bedazzled base, so it is a merino, nylon, and stellina base. And I've got quite a bit done. I'm working on these also 2 at a time concurrently. They're currently wrapped around each other, and I'm in the same spot on both of them. So So you can see some really fun colors there. There's that limey pistachio green popping up again. Now I actually had knit down to where I wanted to put the heel. And then I attempted a traditional heel flap and gusset a couple of different times on one sock, trying to get the colors lined up how I liked it. I don't like when you just have a little skinny stripe of one color, you know, running along from, like, once you finished your heel flap and pick up for the gusset, sometimes you'll end up with just one little stripe of color. And to me, it looks out of place. So I was trying to make it work, but I was ending up with this really thick stripe of the gray. I just didn't like the way it looked, so I took it out and I decided to do an afterthought heel instead, and I'm much happier with that result. So I put in waste yarn where I wanted the heel to go. I knit for another inch or two, and then I took yarn from the other end of the ball and did the short row, or the afterthought heel. So that was not without its difficulties. The way I ended up picking up my stitches along the waste yarn, I ended up with kind of a gap in one side of the heel, but I just took, and I don't remember which one it is, I just took some, a piece of the gray yarn, wove it in, and just closed up those stitches, so I have a nice join at each side. So sock number 1 and sock number 2. So well on my way with those. Tonight's Friday. It's happy hour, happy night, I should say, and no doubt I'll work on these while Cameron and I have a drink before our dinner. So that's it for the knitting. I did pick up my lounging top by Joji Locatelli when I got home, and I've put maybe an inch on it or so. I worked out where I need to do the decreases for the waist shaping. The pattern itself is just worked straight. The body's worked straight, but I wanted a little bit of shaping in there. So I had kind of put off doing that, and so the projects have been sitting for a while, but I finally sat down, did the math, and now I'm well on my way to that. That'll be another great, just plain, more or less just plain stockinette project to work on, you know, visiting with people or driving in the car even. So, not that I have any trips planned upcoming for that. Okay. So I also did some cross stitching in the last couple of weeks. I'm continuing to work on my autumn bell pull. I am on the T. I think when I showed it to you last time, I think maybe I had done part of the T. So since then, I've completed the T, and I've got this little apple done. And I've just finished the pumpkin, and then there's, I think, a squash here. I think there's another apple that goes down here. I think another kind of squash, some grapes. So that is coming along too. Enjoying working on that. This is a pattern by Stony Creek Collection. Can you tell I'm working without show notes this week? I just thought I'd sit down, record, and do the show notes up later. And then, as I mentioned, I have been doing some sewing. So the day I recorded last, I had received a fabric order from Fat Quarter Shop that I had ordered to do placemats for our kitchen. And so that was something to look forward to. While we were away, I was looking forward to coming home and and working on those. So I've been working on 2 different styles of placemats. The first one I just did a very basic striped placemat. So I had ordered a jelly roll and also a package of the charms, 5-inch charm pack. So the first one, and then some yardages. So my first set of placemats, I just did simple stripes, vertical stripes, and backed them with this fabric. Now what I did on this one is I put the backing fabric and the batting together, and then I began on one edge, laid down a strip, sewed a strip, pressed it across, sewed a strip, pressed it across, and so just basically constructed it from one end to the other. And so the seams ended up being the quilting stitches on the back. I'm not sure how well that will show up. So I just have vertical quilting stitches running down the back of each placemat. I still need to bind them. I'm putting off the worst for last. I do not enjoy the binding process, but I do enjoy this part. So here, I'll show you, they're all different. So I'll show them all to you. So many fun, beautiful fabrics. Maybe I have to bring it a bit closer. So I chose to have sort of lighter fabrics on the outside of 3 of them, and then darker fabrics on the outside of 3 of them. Other than that, I didn't put a ton of thought into what I selected. I think for the most part, I haven't repeated any of the actual fabric patterns, because with the jelly rolls and with the different collections, you'll have the same pattern in different colors, combinations, and I tried to avoid repeating any of them in a placemat. I know I did duplicate it in at least 1, if not 2 of them accidentally, but for the most part, there'll be, I think it's 9 different fabrics on each placemat. So there's my 6 original placemats. And then with the leftover jelly roll strips and with the 5-inch charm pack, I created a different pattern. Just basically put a charm 5-inch square down in the middle and then bordered it with the jelly roll strips. So I was working on, I had to make sure I had enough of the strips and had long enough pieces of the strips in order to make this work. And so I was working on like a paper mock-up of it when Cameron came home from work, and I had been doing some of the math, and I said, oh, you know what, I'll leave this till morning now, because he had come in late. I'll come and leave it for morning when my mind is fresher anyway, and sat down and had a visit with him. And so when I picked it up in the morning, my brain was not fresher apparently, because I goofed on the math that I had done correctly the night before. And so it turned out that in some cases, I did not have enough fabric in a strip to go around the initial one or the second one. And so I did sort of seam it, which I know the real quilters that of you who are out there would probably not approve, but these are placemats, and for the most part no one's even going to notice because your plate will be on top of it and hiding it anyway. But I did go ahead, do a seam on here. That one's pretty well hidden, but I had to do another seam here. That one's less hidden. But, you know, that whole thing about not noticing it from a trotting horse and all that. As far as I'm concerned, it applies. And so I'm going to have to do a few more like that because of just the way I had used the jelly roll strips for the first placemats. I ended up with some strips that I had 2 strips but had chunks taken out of each of them. So that's one. This one worked out as it was supposed to. And then one more. And then I have 3 more of those to make up. I still have quite a few of the charms left, the 5-inch squares, and I still have some yardage left. So I'm not sure if I'm going to do maybe a table runner or just exactly what. And I still do need to do the binding also. And these ones you'll see have the corners of batting showing, but the corners are going to be rounded like the others because they're easier to bind with a bias binding than a straight corner. So yeah, having lots of fun playing with that. All right, so that is it for all the crafting. I have some acquisitions to share with you. So we spent most of our time at the cabin, but we had a few days up at Sun Peaks, which is a ski resort town just outside of Kamloops, BC. And I have visited a really lovely yarn shop there a couple of times before. And so we stopped there on our way out of town on the last day, on our way back to the cabin. Didn't have a lot of time, but I went and took a look around. The first thing I spotted was this skein of Zauberball Crazy. I'm always on the lookout for good yarns for gift socks, and I thought that would do equally well for a guy or a girl, and so I picked that up. I love knitting with Zauberball. But then I stood in front of the wall of Canadian yarn dyers and really had a tough time making up my mind. But I ended up picking up some Fiddly Dye Works, and I had bought a couple of skeins from there. I think it was last year. It's the first time I'd heard of them, and they just drew me back in again. So last time I had picked up these 2 skeins that really went together well. Good haul. Let's see. This is Gretchen. This is, I've got it written on the yarn labels, Karis. In any case, so I had bought those before. So I decided to try a different palette. And this time I picked up some shades of brown. So there's this one here. It's called Julian. It's a fingering weight merino sock, 75 merino, 25% nylon. Very subtle. And then there's this one that went along with it really well called Sophie. You can see it's got tones of brown, but it's also got kind of some burgundy, or I'm not sure what color to call that, pinky red in there. So I was trying to find something that would match well with my original thought was like a 3-color shawl. And so I found this skein of Olivia, which I thought blended really well too. And I think it was sitting next to this one. So it's like a natural, but it has shades of yellow and that same kind of pinky red in there. Then I got thinking that maybe rather than a 3-color shawl, I might want to do a colorwork sweater. So I picked up another skein of the Sophie to do that with. And later on, I was thinking that recently I had bought another skein of Fiddly Dye Works from a local-ish yarn shop online called Adira. And I had bought it to match these 2 original skeins of Fiddly Dye Works that I had bought. But I realized that it would also work very well. Whoops, I just about dropped it with this. So It's got the same color in it. Can match that. And so I'm thinking I can visualize a colorwork sweater. Whoops. That these two are like the main color, and that these three together could be the colorwork section on it. So I don't know if I can get them all in the same shot. Kind of like herding cats here. Does that work? There we go. So anyway, now I got to find a pattern that will work with it. But I'm quite excited about my new acquisitions. So let's see here. I guess I'll tell you a little bit about our holiday. We weren't sure if we were going to head out Saturday or Sunday. We were going up to the cabin for 1 or 2 nights to start with. So we did end up kind of getting everything ready by Saturday afternoon. So we took off, and on the way to the cabin, we stopped to visit my mom. She lives about 10 miles or 17 kilometers from where the cabins are. Normally we would pick her up and take her out there with us, but because of COVID, it's too risky to spend that close time together. And so unfortunately this summer it's just been a matter of stopping at her place, having a visit outside her front porch whenever we can. And so we did that on the way in, and then headed out to the cabin, got things kind of settled there, made dinner, and then the next day we cut some grass for a couple of hours. We'd been up there the week before with the grandkids, and Cameron had managed to do some lawn cutting, but I was busy watching the kids, and so there was a section that hadn't got done. So that we did that, so then the whole yard had it all done recently, even if it was in 2 different cuts. And you could already see a week later how much the other part had grown, but we weren't about to redo it. So yeah, we had the rest of the day to more or less relax. My mom phoned up to say that I think we had already arranged. No, I know. Her friend called her and said she thought they should come out to the cabin for happy hour. And then she happened to mention it to some other friends. So we ended up with my mom and her friends coming out and having happy hour with us on the Sunday. So that was an unexpected but nice visit. And then we took off the next morning for Sun Peaks. And I'm trying to think what we did that day. I guess we did a little bit of running around in town before heading up the mountain. Got settled into our room. We had rented like a condo type of place. It's attached to a hotel up there, but it's a fully furnished apartment, more or less. So we had a kitchen and stuff. So we picked up pizza for dinner, sat out on our little balcony, watched the people go by. And the next day we took the chairlift up the mountain and did a hike among the wildflowers. We did the same thing last year, and it was so beautiful that we were really eager to repeat that experience. Hi there, it's Carol from the future, just popping in here to say that I am going to include some footage from our mountain hike at the end of the podcast. So if you're interested in that, stick around after the goodbyes and you can catch it there. It wasn't quite as peaceful as last year in some ways because there was some heavy equipment up there working on a new lift, I think, or a new run, I'm not sure. And so you could hear that all in the background. But there were a lot less people than last year. We found the town quite quiet this year because of COVID and not as many people traveling. So we did enjoy our walk very much. It was sunny but not too warm. The mosquitoes were fine, but the flies were terrible. Every time we stopped to take pictures, or I stopped to take pictures, and that was frequently, we were getting bitten by deer flies and horse flies. So I had quite a few little bites all over, especially on my legs, which have thankfully kind of settled down now. I tend to react to insect bites quite a bit, and they itch a lot and will often swell up and get quite red, but they're looking much better now, and it was worth it. We saw a couple of hummingbirds while we were up there. I got some footage of that. The little ground squirrels or marmots, just various birds, and the flowers were beautiful. Because of our later spring, the flowers, there were some that we saw this year that had already finished blooming last year, like the alpine lilies, for instance. So we got some pictures of different flowers than last year, and yeah, just enjoyed our walk immensely. And you can look down on the Sun Peaks town site there, as well as to the surrounding mountains and lakes and things. And then the next day we went golfing, and we've golfed that course several times before. Last year we both did not have a very good round at all. This year I didn't even bother keeping score. I just golfed and did not too bad. I got a couple bogeys on a couple of holes, so for me that's really good. And Cameron had a great round. He was really pleased with his game. Got quite a number of pars and several bogeys. So yeah, we just had a really nice time. Again, it was sunny, but not too bad, not too hot. The day that we'd gone up on the mountain, that was our anniversary. So we were looking for a place to go out for dinner that night. And the choices were a little bit more limited this year. Some restaurants aren't open, some are open with limited hours. But we did find a place to eat, had a nice dinner. While we were at dinner, Cameron happened to spot a bear on one of the ski runs opposite us, and I just managed to capture some footage before it disappeared into the trees. And then I guess it was Thursday, we headed back down. Before heading over to the cabin, we stopped at a winery and had lunch there. It looked out over the river. So it was a nice leisurely way of making our way back home. Then we stopped at the yarn shop after that. And then we had, a couple of days at the cabin that we could just chill. One day I was sitting in the cabin knitting across from the open door, and a movement caught my eye, and I looked up and I saw a deer very close to the cabin. There was a little patch of longer grass near the step to the cabin. I think it had it in its eye, and then I kind of startled it, and it kind of startled me. So then we watched the deer just go through the yard and up the mountain, and I managed to record it just settling in for a little rest. So I'm going to include that footage here. my cousin came up with his wife, I think on the Saturday, and we had another visit with my mom. We went in and had a happy hour with her Saturday evening with my cousins also, and so got some visits in, and then headed home Sunday afternoon. Cameron wanted to be home a day before he had to go back to work, and that was nice. That day, our older son and his fiance came over for a visit in the morning. They wanted to talk wedding plans. They are getting married end of next June, and I don't think I've said before, they're getting married up at the cabin site actually, and then renting the hall in town for their reception. So plans are all coming together. Our future daughter-in-law is entering a teacher training program, and I think it starts in about just over a week now. And so she's trying to get as many things done as far as wedding plans go before that, because she knows she's going to have a busy year, and she'll just finish up her coursework just I think a couple of weeks before the wedding. So she's very organized and definitely has a good vision of how she wants things to be. So it's great. So we've just basically said, let us know what we can do, and she'll keep us informed and let us know what we can do to help. And then that afternoon we went and picked up some groceries, restocked the house. We also had laundry going that day, and then we went over to our daughter's place for a visit also. Saw the kids, saw our son-in-law, had a really nice outdoor backyard visit. It was nice and breezy, sat under their willow tree. It was a lovely visit. And then came back for our last evening of holidays. I think we had leftover. We had done takeout when we came home the day before, so we had leftover Chinese food, warmed that up, and just enjoyed a nice quiet evening before reality had to set back in Tuesday morning. So since then, as I mentioned, I've had a pretty quiet week. Had long days on my own. Cameron unfortunately had to go get right back into work mode. His company's now doing inventory, so that this time of year is always means long hours for him, as he's working at various stores helping out where necessary for counting and such. So haven't seen very much this week, but tonight is Friday night. It's Appy night. He's not going to be working late, so got a bottle of wine in the fridge ready for that. One that we picked up at the winery that we visited on our way home. And looking forward to Appy night and a couple of days off. Cameron's going to go golfing with our younger son on Sunday. I was invited to go along, but it's in the afternoon. It's going to be mid-20s here, and it's just a little hotter than I like for golfing. I'd rather start earlier and have it not so hot. Also, I'm not as huge a golfing fan as Cameron is. I like it. I don't love it. So I'm just as happy to stay home and do something else. We are both getting our hair cut again Sunday. It's not too bad today, but I've got, especially there's that end here that just keeps flipping back into my eyes and stuff. So ready for another haircut already. So yeah, I think that is it. My gardens definitely need some attention, so I'm hoping to get to that this week coming up. But other than that, don't have any real concrete plans. Jessica, our daughter, did ask if I would babysit one night while she and her husband go on a date. So they had wanted to do that this week, and I said, you know what, let's maybe delay it for another week. Make sure everybody's healthy, because we'd been away and they'd seen other people. Our oldest granddaughter had been away with her mom and such. So I thought, let's just give it a bit of time, make sure everybody's well, and then feel like we can get back together in our bubbles again. Just trying to do that, take it on a case-by-case basis. in British Columbia over the past month, the cases have gone up as the province has entered the next phase of reopening. And even though most of those cases are tied to specific outbreaks, it's obviously still out there in the community too. And there is an outbreak focused at a berry processing plant in the next town over, which is where Cameron has his office. And it's just, you know what, let's just play it safe and make sure everyone's good before we start mingling a little more closely again. But so far, so good. Knock wood. Yeah, I know not everywhere is faring as well, and it is very sobering to watch the news and see some places where cases are continuing to rise and still don't seem to be under control. So if you're in one of those places, especially take very good care, stay well, and yeah, I hope you all have a good next week up ahead. I do plan to record again next week, so look for something probably mid to late week. So take care until then. Thank you as always for watching. I always appreciate that. And yes, it's episode 150, which means I've been at this for just over 3.5 years. So thanks to all of you. I know some of you have been there since the beginning. Some brave souls have come in midway and then told me they've watched all the back episodes. So kudos to you. That's a lot of me. So thank you. I'm humbled by that. So yes, thank you all for your loyal viewership these past 3.5 years. I really treasure the friendships that I have formed with many of you. That's been such the most rewarding part of this whole process. So thank you for that. So on that happy note, take care, everyone. I will see you again really soon. Bye. Here we are, going up the chairlift.